There is an energy that has destroyed more lives than war, more homes than poverty, and more dreams than the lack of faith itself. And the scariest part? Almost no one talks about it. This energy is misused sexual energy, a sacred fire that should bring enlightenment, prosperity, and abundance, but which, for many, has become compulsion, addiction, and existential emptiness. You may think you're in control, but what if I told you that it's precisely this hidden flame that is draining your inner peace, blocking your prosperity, and preventing your connection with the universe? What I'm about to reveal may shock you, but it could also be the key to your spiritual awakening. Sexual energy has always been seen, in ancient traditions, as a sacred fire capable of opening portals to enlightenment and consciousness expansion. It is the same flame that awakens the chakras, elevates the soul, and connects the human being to the universe. But when this creative force is inverted, it becomes shadow. Instead of leading to spiritual awakening, it imprisons in invisible chains of compulsion and emptiness. What was once a light of prosperity becomes a maze where the individual chases mirrors that never reflect fulfillment. In this inverted state, the person becomes a worshiper of desire, as if paying tribute to the body at the expense of the soul. Physical pleasure becomes an idol, and the mind loses its balance, forgetting the law of attraction that should be used for abundance and co-creation. Not by chance, those who live in this cycle end up draining their spiritual energy, feeling a heavy heart and a life without purpose. It's as if the flame, which should warm and nourish, turned against the very inner altar. And here lies the mystery. This flame never ceases to be sacred, even when corrupted. It remains as a call from the spirit, asking for transformation and reconnection with inner wealth. Every fall into compulsion is a sign from the universe, a disguised lesson pointing to spiritual awakening. The person is not really facing an enemy, but a test to learn how to transmute the inverted flame into an ascending fire that doesn't burn, but illuminates. And to understand this deeply, humanity has always sought symbols. And one of them is the myth of Prometheus, the one who dared to steal the fire of the gods. Prometheus in Greek mythology dared to steal the fire of the gods and give it to men. This fire, more than a simple flame, was a symbol of creative power, of the energy capable of transforming realities and shaping destinies. However, when this divine gift is used without awareness, it ceases to be light and becomes destruction. So it is with sexuality. When stolen from its sacred altar and used only as fuel for pleasure, it turns into a prison. What was given to generate abundance, enlightenment, and balance becomes a source of suffering. Prometheus's punishment, chained to a rock, his liver devoured daily by an eagle, represents the cycle of unconscious sexual compulsion. With each act devoid of spiritual purpose, the individual feels something is taken away. He tries to fill the void again, but the emptiness returns, like the eagle that always comes back to devour. Here lies the torment: to live chained to incessant pursuit, believing to be in control, while in truth, being a slave to the inverted flame. But just as the myth points to pain, it also reveals the possibility of transformation. The divine fire was not given to burn, but to illuminate the path of consciousness expansion. When used with gratitude, faith, and spiritual self-knowledge, it becomes the spark capable of awakening chakras, opening portals of co-creation, and aligning the human being with spiritual laws. The myth of Prometheus reminds us that the power of the mind must be allied to the heart, or else the flame of spiritual life becomes mere smoke. And this is where the need for discernment arises. When is desire a call from the soul, and when is it merely the emptiness of the ego crying out for attention? There is a simple yet profoundly transformative exercise that the ancient masters recommended. Observe the origin of desire. Every time the flame of sexual desire arises, it can come from two distinct places: from the soul as a creative and harmonizing impulse, or from the ego as a cry of emptiness, trying to fill what it cannot find within itself. This observation is not moralistic, it is spiritual. It is the key to distinguishing the call of the spirit from the trap of the shadow. Desire born of the soul has a clear signature. It brings inner peace, awakens gratitude, and generates expansion of consciousness. Even when it manifests in the body, it does not bring anxiety or haste, but harmony and connection with the universe. On the other hand, desire that comes from the ego carries urgency, restlessness, and, right after the pleasure, leaves the bitter taste of emptiness. It's like eating something too sweet. At first, it satisfies, but soon it sickens. The person realizes that instead of prosperity, the result is energetic exhaustion and spiritual imbalance. To practice, all it takes is a moment of silence before giving in to the impulse. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, does this desire come from my spirit or from my lack? This small pause is already a form of guided meditation, a miniature spiritual awakening. It is in this space of self-awareness that true spiritual self-knowledge is born. And the more one develops this perception, the more they are able to transmute desire into abundance, financial unblockings, and inner prosperity. But when this attention does not exist, the pursuit of pleasure disguises itself as beauty and turns into a cult of appearance, like the mask of Aphrodite. In mythology, Aphrodite is the goddess of love and beauty, but when her sacred face is corrupted, only the mask remains, the cult of appearance without essence. This is the point where many lose themselves, believing that sexual energy is limited to aesthetics, seduction, and superficial conquest. The body, which should be a temple of spiritual life, is treated as a showcase of vanities. And thus, instead of spiritual awakening, the person dives into a labyrinth of comparisons, insecurities, and illusions. This cult of outward form turns the creative flame into fireworks, beautiful, bright, but brief and empty. Social media is full of examples of this distortion, images that exalt the body but hide the soul in silence. The energy that could be channeled into abundance and the manifestation of true prosperity is lost in likes and fleeting glances. The mask of Aphrodite promises happiness, but delivers only anxiety and disconnection from life's purpose. The danger of this illusion is that behind apparent beauty lies a heart hungry for harmony. Those who live only in the mask never feel enough, for there will always be someone younger, more beautiful, more desired. The soul cries for connection with the universe, but the ego insists on the mirror. This inner tension reveals the need to distinguish physical intensity from true intimacy, the next veil we must remove for the flame to shine again in its purity. One of the most subtle mistakes on the spiritual journey is believing that physical intensity is the same as true intimacy. The fire of the body can burn intensely, but if there is no soul connection, the heat dissipates in minutes, leaving only the ashes of existential emptiness. This is the invisible error, confusing fleeting intensity with deep encounter. Authentic intimacy is not measured by how much the body trembles, but by how much the heart finds peace and the spirit finds harmony. In practice, many surrender to the frenzy of the senses, believing that this is love. But in the end, they realize that there was no co-creation, only energy consumption. It's like lighting a bonfire with dry straw. The flame rises quickly, impresses, but soon dies out, leaving darkness. Without awareness, the physical act may seem like prosperity, but in truth, it is a drain on inner wealth, draining the chakras and distancing the connection with the universe. True intimacy is silent. It is when two souls recognize each other and align with spiritual laws. In this space, sexual energy is not just pleasure, but a manifestation of abundance, expansion of consciousness, and spiritual awakening. It is in this place that the power of the mind and heart unite, transforming the encounter into a blessing. And the sign that intimacy is lacking is always the same: the emptiness after the act, that uncomfortable silence that reveals something essential was not nourished. Few realize it, but there is a subtle sign that shows when sexual energy was misdirected: the feeling of emptiness that arises after the act. Before there was anxiety, desire, a fire that felt urgent. Afterwards, only a heavy silence remains, as if something had been stolen from the soul. This emptiness is the echo of the inverted flame, showing that the energy was not used as a bridge to enlightenment, but wasted in exchange for fleeting pleasure. This state reveals a deep spiritual imbalance. Instead of gratitude, there is regret. Instead of inner peace, restlessness. It's as if the chakras were drained, leaving the person without vital force to manifest abundance and prosperity. This post-act void is the same torment of Prometheus. With each unconscious surrender, something is taken away, and the next day, the cycle begins again. The mind, which could be a channel for co-creation, becomes a slave to passing desires. But the universe is wise. This sign is not a punishment, but an invitation. It points to the need for transformation, to the spiritual awakening still waiting within. If, after the act, the human being feels more connected, more hopeful and harmonious, it means the energy was used as a blessing. But if emptiness dominates, it's because the ego took the reins. This contrast is the spiritual compass, indicating when it's time to transmute the flame, and this transmutation opens the path to true alchemy, turning sexual energy into light, prosperity, and consciousness expansion. True spiritual alchemy is not about denying desire, but learning how to transmute it. The same energy that, when inverted, generates compulsion and emptiness can, when elevated, become creative force, financial unlocking, and prosperity in all areas of life. The ancient masters called this the sublimation of vital energy, raising the fire from the womb to the heart and the mind, transforming instinct into enlightenment. It is in this flow that the chakras align and spiritual life is strengthened. When sexual flame is guided by consciousness, it becomes fuel for life purpose. Instead of spending energy on fleeting pleasures, the person learns to direct it towards co-creation, projects, relationships, material prosperity, and spiritual abundance. It's like channeling a river. When it runs wild, it can flood and destroy. But when it is guided, it irrigates land, generates wealth and sustenance. The mind gains clarity, the heart finds balance, and the human being begins to manifest their true inner wealth. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but with each conscious choice. Every time desire is recognized and redirected, the person takes a step towards spiritual awakening. The energy that once was a prison becomes a blessing, bringing hope and harmony. And to keep it from staying just an idea, there are ancient practices that guide this transmutation, opening the path to universal connection and expansion of consciousness. Among the most powerful practices is guided meditation, which allows you to observe the flow of vital energy and learn to elevate it through the body. Visualizing the flame rising from the womb to the crown is an exercise in energetic transmutation that harmonizes the chakras and strengthens spiritual life. This practice not only calms the mind, but also creates direct connection with the universe, aligning the person with the spiritual laws that govern prosperity and abundance. Another practice is conscious breathing, used by many ancestral traditions. Deeply inhaling, holding the air for a few moments, and then slowly exhaling, helps to control impulses and expand awareness. It is in this state that the human being perceives their inner wealth and unlocks their co-creation potential. The energy once wasted in compulsions is now used as a manifestation tool. Finally, spiritual self-knowledge is the foundation of all practices. Studying the chakras, understanding ancient symbols, applying the law of attraction, and cultivating daily gratitude are ways to keep the flame lit on the right altar. Life purpose blossoms when the person stops being a slave to desire and becomes a guardian of their own energy. It is on this journey of expanding consciousness that sexuality ceases to be a prison and becomes a portal to enlightenment and prosperity. Now tell me, how many times have you felt that emptiness after pleasure? How many times have you realized that instead of peace, the flame left only restlessness? This is the proof that it's not enough to live on autopilot. Spiritual awakening is needed. Sexual energy is not the enemy. It is your greatest ally if you learn to transmute it into balance, abundance, and prosperity. The big question is, will you continue feeding the inverted flame, or will you choose the path of enlightenment? Will you remain a slave to your instincts, or will you embrace the power of your mind and soul to manifest your inner wealth? This decision is yours alone, and the universe is already waiting for your move toward transformation. If this knowledge made sense to you, subscribe to the channel now, activate the notifications, and keep walking with me on this journey of spiritual self-knowledge. With each video, we'll unlock more energy, more purpose in life, and more connection with the universe together. Your consciousness expansion starts here and now. So, answer me in the comments. Are you ready to transmute your hidden flame into light?